Hi, I'm Monica Weber, and I am with Boulder Office of Disaster Management. And today we're talking about emergency alert basics. So over the course of this video, we're going to go ahead and talk about how an alert is initiated, the different types of alerts that exist that you might get, terminology that is used in alerts so that you can be able to decipher what the alert is telling you, and additional resources that you can use once you do receive an alert, or if you have questions about emergency or disaster statuses. So to begin with, starting out with a little bit of context, we're just going to talk about how an alert is born into the world. So where does it come from? We know oftentimes it comes to your phone in some capacity, but this is a little bit of context on how it comes to be. So we'll talk through each of these steps with an alert starting with incident command, going then to dispatch, and then ending up in your hands once it reaches the public. That starting phase of an alert going out always begins with incident command. And incident command, like the picture shows, is typically law enforcement or fire personnel who are out in the field. They're folks that have responded to the scene of whatever the disaster is, and they're having eyes on it, making sure that they're sizing it up and figuring out what the potential impact might be, and if alerts need to go out, what area those alerts need to go to, and what type of alert would go, whether it would be an advisory, a warning, or an order if people need to act immediately. So once they size it up, they then determine the area. And the area that they determine can look like a few different shapes. First, it can be one of the predetermined shapes that we have in our county. The entire county is divided into predetermined shapes so that our incident commanders and dispatchers can communicate really quickly to be able to get those alerts out to you in predetermined areas. If a predetermined area is deemed not necessarily the most fitting for whatever the type of hazard is, folks in the field that are incident command might either draw a radius, so a circle type of shape around whatever that hazard is, and folks in that shape would get notified. Or if it's something that is maybe even parceled down even more, they might draw an individual shape that kind of crosses different boundaries to be able to send alerts to the appropriate folks within that area. So once they do that, the incident command folks are then going to communicate with dispatch via email, calling them, or sometimes even coming in and being able to sit with them and talk through it. But then they're relaying all the information about what type of alert needs to go out and where it needs to go to the dispatchers, who then fill out information in their computer systems, and then boom, that alert ends up in your hands. And how? Well, we're going to talk in just a sec about all the different methods that exist for how you might be able to get emergency notifications and alerts. So going into that, one thing to really remember as we think about alerts is that you are always going to be your first notification. And we say that because using your sight, hearing, anything you might smell, your senses, that can really be a good determiner of what is going on around you. And then trusting that gut. If you sense something is going on, it's really, really important to always trust your gut, because we know that a lot of these systems are technology based and technology can fail, especially when we think about disasters where there's high wind, fire that might have burned over infrastructure, floodwaters, other things that can complicate the ability for some of that technology to work as it should. So most times, it's going to work perfectly, but always, always trust that gut feeling that you have. But in terms of formal alert methods, now that we've got that part out of the way, formal alert methods and different types that you might get, we've got a whole host of them. And the goal in going over these is that you don't just pick one, but that you rather use these in a real layered approach so that you've got multiple that you know are kind of in your toolkit that you can use to get information that's going to keep you and your loved ones safe. So our first type of alert that we're going to talk about is our Everbridge opt-in alerts. And so this is a system that can go to your phone. You can get a call. You can also get it via text message, or you can have it go to email if you want. So provides a lot of different ways to get it. This is a system, however, that you have to opt in. There's not going to be an automatic email that comes to you, automatic text message, unless you sign up. That's really helpful for signing up for multiple reasons. One, it gets you information that you need, but two, it allows you to manage your account. So when you sign up for Everbridge through bocoalert.org, you can go in and add up to 5 addresses. That's really helpful because then you can put your home address, maybe the place that you work, school, other things that are important to you, locations around our county that are really important, where you might want to know that things are going on. If there was any kind of hazard near those locations, you'd want to make sure you were aware. One really important thing about this is that it's really good to add those addresses because you will only get alerted if whatever area that those incident commanders draw encompasses an area that has that address in it. So if you have your home address but nothing else and you're at work in Boulder County somewhere and something is happening near your work, but you haven't added that address, you won't get a notification through the Everbridge system because it doesn't know to ping you off because of where your address is. So just a key point to know about Everbridge. Everbridge also has one component that is automatic. If you have a landline, those are added automatically to that notification system every quarter, so once every 3 months, and that will then allow you to get those alerts without signing up. But as I mentioned, signing up really, really critical so that you can manage those addresses and make sure that you can choose which method you'd like to get it in. So next, we'll talk a little bit about ReachWell. So Everbridge is our primary mode of sending out alerts. ReachWell is a new app that we've just acquired. And what this does is it takes information from Everbridge and then pushes it out through the app. ReachWell is a phone app that you can get. You can download it by looking for ReachWell in your app store on your phone. The icon is like a little paper airplane with a blue background, and then you can search for BOCO Alert and then choose that and add it to the app, and that will then give you all of the notifications that go out in Boulder County. I say that because it's really important to know through ReachWell, you will get every notification that goes out, regardless of your location around the county. So that can be really beneficial if you're someone who has many locations, more than 5 that Everbridge can handle, that you would like to know information about. Or if you're just someone who really wants to be in the know about everything going on in your community, that can be a really helpful resource. In addition, and kind of its main feature and what makes it so cool is that it provides alerts in real time in over 100 languages. So it allows for lots of language access for our community and those alerts in real time. It's also handy if you're someone that doesn't want to sign up for things, you don't want to share personal information, you don't have to register for anything or share personal information like your address, your phone number. You just sign up, choose that BOCO alert little widget when you're in the app, and then it will get you all the alerts that you will need. Next, we'll talk a little bit about wireless emergency alerts. And so these are the type that come through in an Amber Alert style. So they push directly to your phone unless you've disabled them. So if you've disabled them, we really recommend going into your notifications and turning them on. And these go out through, again, same system of incident command lets dispatchers know that they need to send something out. And then dispatchers go ahead, put information in the system, and these push to your phone through cell towers. So it's automatic like an Amber Alert, no sign up is needed, but if you're within range of a cell tower that's in the impacted area, it will then push to your phone. One thing to note about these as well is that they're dependent on cell carriers pushing it through. So if you've ever been in a space where your phone's going off, but someone that's in the room is not, and it's an Amber Alert style, that's why. Sometimes there's a little bit of a lag, but still a really helpful resource if there's any life safety imminent threat pieces. WEAs will typically go out, or wireless emergency alerts, to get folks in that area notified of a threat or hazard. Next, we'll talk about outdoor warning sirens, and the next 3 that we're going to talk about are really focused a little bit more on the weather side rather than fire type of incidents. So outdoor warning sirens are located throughout the county. They are intended for folks that are outdoors. If you live near one, you might hear them every once in a while when they get tested or when they're in use, and that's great because we know that they're working. It might be a little bit annoying, but know that the intention for outdoor sirens is not to have everyone that is in their home know that those are going off. They're folks that are out recreating in our public and open spaces or who might be walking around their neighborhood. So just a little tidbit on that. And then they're used for things like flash flood, tornadoes, which we have more rarely, but still included. And then some throughout our county have a wildfire package where they'll notify for that. So here in the city of Boulder, there's a few sirens that are west of Broadway that have them, and then other different municipalities around the county have that package added as well as needed. Next component that we'll talk about is the emergency alert system. This is the type of notification that goes through on TV if you have traditional TV or your radio. So if you've ever been driving around and you hear kind of those three little eh, eh, and then a robot comes through and talks to you, that is the EAS or emergency alert system. And again, like I mentioned, this is another one that's really focused on weather. So things like hail, extreme thunderstorms, winter weather advisory, those types of things will potentially come through in an EAS type of alert. And like I mentioned, typically used for severe weather. The next thing that we've got, and the last one that'll kind of round it out, is all hazards weather radio, which, as the name might imply, means you're going to get weather alerts on it. But that can be handy to have around for severe weather, have it around your home, have it around places that you might be that don't have great cell service. And they also have quite a few features on some of them. The one pictured here doesn't have this, but where they have a flashlight built in, or spaces where you can plug in like a USB to be able to charge a phone. So different capabilities that can help you just in your preparedness kind of toolkit with some of these all hazard weather radios. So moving on, now that we've gone over the types and methods of alerts that you might get, we're going to go over a little bit of the terminology that is used in these alerts so that you have a bit more familiarity with what the alert means once it comes through to you, because we all know, not helpful if you can't decipher what it means. So different types that we have, you might get an advisory, a warning, or an order. And we'll go over a little bit of the details of what each of these mean. I will say also, in a dream world, they go exactly in that order that we talked about, where first you're getting the advisory, then as things escalate, you get a warning, then when things are getting really not too great, you're going to get that order. Sometimes we jump straight to warning or order, depending on the severity and speed of whatever the incident is and your proximity to it. So just something to know that you might not always start out in that advisory phase. But jumping in, I'm going to talk about advisories. That is used to basically raise awareness. So if we make this a making dinner, you're making tacos for dinner type of analogy, which is a common one used as we talk about alerts for advisory, warning, and order. The advisory is the grocery store phase. The conditions are right for you to make dinner. You are acquiring the things that might lead to you making dinner, but nothing's quite happening yet. So we think about advisories when you get a high wind advisory, winter weather advisory. Things aren't imminent, they're not happening currently, but things are getting primed to set the stage for a potential incident or hazardous condition to come through. So then once things start to escalate, right, we are now at home prepping the food for the dinner. That is the equivalent of the warning phase. So it's really used to help you get ready to take action. That's when now it's moved from that advisory, conditions are right, to conditions are right, and it's happening somewhere, maybe not right in your proximity, not an immediate threat to you, but we want you to kind of have your head up, be aware of what's going on around you. And then the final stage of the types of alerts that go out is an order. And at that point, dinner is on the table, it's done, it is here and ready to go. That meaning that that's a time when you need to take directives that are shared in that alert immediately. It's not the time to try to figure out what you might want to do, if it's the right time to go. An order is a phase where if it's an evacuation order, a shelter in place order, you should do that action immediately to keep yourself and those that you care about safe. I will say too, order is typically when we think about that action phase, but if you're someone that has mobility or just might need a little bit longer to kind of activate and get moving, we really advise that you take whatever action that is during the warning phase to just help lower your stress levels and be able to get to safety in a time that is more supportive for your actual safety. So there's that piece. About the types, so advisory, warning, and order. And then we'll talk about, when we get to that order phase, some of the actions that the alert might direct you to take. So to begin with, we've got climb to higher ground. This, shockingly, is used for flood type of events. So during a fire, don't go climb into higher ground. That's not going to go out to you. But during a flood, we want you to get higher than where you are currently. So whether that means going up a hillside, going to a second floor of a building, that's what that entails. Next type of action that you might be directed to take is an evacuation, and that's a directive to leave the area that you're in immediately. Next, we've got shelter in place. That's a directive to remain indoors, so that can be used for things like hazmat situations, active harmer, severe weather, and those types of incidents where it's important to stay in the location that you're at and shelter in some way. Next, we've got missing or endangered persons. That's really used to share information with our community about someone who is missing or endangered in some way. That helps us all as a community be more aware and be on the lookout so that we can contact officials with information about their whereabouts so that the person can get back to where they need to be. And then lastly, when things have calmed down, we get an all clear. And that's just information sharing that officials have determined that the hazard doesn't present a risk anymore. So that means that you'd be able to go back potentially to the area that you were previously evacuated from. You could stop sheltering in place, those types of actions. So we've covered a lot of information. There are also additional sources where you can get information as hazards occur. The Boulder ODM website, which you can reach at boulderodm.gov, has information on recent alerts. It's also got maps when we have disasters going on that will indicate if you're in an area and what areas are at risk and under warning orders, whether that's advisory, warning, or an order, and then preparedness info as well, so that you can take steps prior to a disaster occurring to get yourself more prepared and get through that disaster more easily. And then lastly, social media can be a good place just to be able to check in with friends, get additional information from those that you care about. From our office as well, we have Boulder Office of Disaster Management Facebook page and Twitter that you can utilize if those are things that you are on more frequently that you might use to get information. But that can be great for both initial kind of information as things start to trickle out, and then also keeping up your situational awareness on how things are progressing, what kind of updates exist in our community. So with that, the last parting words that I have for you is encouraging you to get signed up for emergency notifications. You can do so by scanning this QR code with a smartphone, or you can visit our website at boulderodm.gov and sign up there. Again, for those Everbridge notifications, add addresses to your account and make sure that you and your loved ones are as safe as you can be and in the know when we have disasters. So that wraps up Alert and Warning Basics. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more info.